Zip, zop, zooey.
Welcome to Timesink, the weekly podcast to let you know what's worth sinking your time into. We're back from a week break, and I'm your host, Sauce. I'm also joined by Mr. Hummer.
Hello. How are you today?
We're all great. And Tito.
That was so friendly. Yeah, we're all the way back and ready for more.
We got a great show for you this week. This week we're going to be talking about the Dumplin movie on Netflix. We're going to be talking about Artemis Fowl, and then the big one, Last of Us 2. And we're going to jump into this week's topic. Are video games better than movies? Are they movies? Worse than movies? So stick around. We're going to get right into it. So Hummer, tell us about this Dumplin movie.
I mean, I thought we were just going to get straight into The Last of Us 2 since, we've been talking about it for like 3 weeks and you just can't seem to get this grin off your face. Like you're just so excited about getting to The Last of Us 2. But you know what? It is fun to make you wait.
I'm saving the best for last.
Keep the people waiting.
All right. Dumpling is a movie on Netflix. If you are a single dude, you will love this movie. Kidding. You will not. If you are a single dude, you will not like this movie.
I'm some of those things.
If you're married, if you have a family or a girlfriend, or you're looking for a date night, it's a movie for that. It's not a romance movie by any means. It's more of like a comedy / drama. It's about a plus size teenager who's the daughter of a former beauty queen, and the former beauty queen is played by the always fabulous Jennifer Aniston.
Oh,
still
got my attention.
The daughter is also obsessed with Dolly Parton, so she always obsessed with Dolly Parton. But the whole kind of thing is that the mom almost seems like ashamed of her daughter because the mom is this super hot, very fit woman. The daughter is not. She's the complete opposite of her mother.
I can relate.
She worshipped her aunt. And the movie just kind of goes through the kind of the trials and tribulation that she goes through in her journey to find herself and the real reason why she's doing the beauty pageant. At first being a joke, but then finding that, this is what I want to do, finding her inner queen bee. I mean, it's very, like I said, if you're a single dude, you're not going to like it, if you're married and you don't like these kind of movies, you're probably going to go on a scale of 1 to how bad do I need to find an excuse to get out of the house. You're probably going to want to find an excuse to get out of the house.
Sounds like a good premise for a movie. Like it sounds like it's exploring some interesting themes there.
I did like it. I thought it was, I'll use my wife's words, not my own. Definitely not my own. It's a cute movie.
Hummer doesn't use that word.
You looked ill saying it. It was very uncomfortable.
It's my favorite movie. I love it.
Aw.
No, I would definitely suggest it's worth some time if you're sitting there looking for something to watch, with your wife and you want to score some brownie points. It's definitely a good film. On our traditional scale, what are we saying this here? 1 through 5. Definitely don't go out and make sure don't cancel 4th of July. Don't stop lighting fireworks to go watch this movie.
Okay.
After your family has left and you're done cleaning up and you're just hungover and you're completely bored and you can't find anything else to do and you're sitting on the couch, put it on.
I feel like you like this movie, Hummer. Like I know when you, and it's okay. I know when you're grumpy about a movie, when something's disappointing, when something doesn't hold your attention. You've got that spark in your eye. I think you like this movie, and I don't hold it against you. I've heard the name of the movie, and I've only heard somewhat positive things about it. So yeah, if you like it, it's okay. Say it, and I will watch it.
I'm saying watch it. I'm just saying, don't go out of your way to watch it.
Okay.
I'll say watch it. I'm giving it a solid 2.5, maybe 3, probably 3, maybe 4.
Oh wow, there's a big fluctuation there, huh?
Yeah. Your face is lit up right now. You're flushed.
Well, I do know that we're only talking about one movie, but I did watch what was that movie called? The Hole, the Spanish movie.
Oh, The Platform.
I did watch The Platform.
Obvio.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I'm not gonna give like a big in-depth review because I know we want to keep this brief. But holy cow, everybody should watch that movie.
It's good, right?
It is awesome.
Did you watch it with subtitles or dubbed, or how did you watch it?
I watched it with subtitles.
Okay. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm also kind of not probably as good as you guys, but I can understand Spanish to a certain extent, so I was able to pick up some of the dialogue without it.
Mm-hmm.
Olé.
Avioso.
Obvio. Yeah. It's good. It's like that first scene, that first 5 minutes really hooks you in.
Yeah. So, but
It's
like
nuts.
I said, I didn't want to take up too much time. I just want to throw that out there. But yeah, watch it.
Yeah. Just gather the whole family, get together, and just throw it on for 4th of July weekend. Get your grandparents, get your kids.
Get the wiener dog, you know.
Especially kids that are like 4 years old, where they're old enough to understand like what's going on and still have nightmares.
Yeah, you need to make sure they've reached the age of reason.
Yeah. If you're okay with heavy-handed metaphors for capitalism and cannibalism, not metaphorical, this might be your movie.
All right, Tito, you got some stuff to share with us for this week?
Yeah, I saw we took a brief hiatus as we were kind of getting our timing. So I actually saw a few movies, but kind of the two that I think are the bigger names out of the ones that I saw. And I wanted to go over our Artemis Fowl and then Eurovision, new Will Ferrell movie came out on Netflix. So Artemis Fowl's been out for a couple of weeks, and I mentioned it briefly that I was kind of had it on in the background. But I spent some quality time with the kiddos over the weekend, and so I was watching that as I was kind of hanging out with them, and it was good. It was entertaining. It's got some really good ideas. I've not read. I believe it's based off of a book, which I haven't read the book, and I'm wondering if it's one of those things where the book is better than the movie. The movie was definitely on the kiddie side. I would not say that it's one of those movies where it's not an Up or a later Toy Story or something where it has something for kids and adults and you're entertained the whole time. It's definitely pretty kiddie. The writing is not great. A lot of the characters will just kind of appear, and a lot of the emotional moments are a little unearned. But overall, it's definitely entertaining. So the premise is, I'll give you the full premise, where I think I was just saying words the last time, like, oh, there's a troll in it. So there's this kid. He's Irish. He's 12 years old. He's Irish. He's Irish.
That flew right over my head.
You watch yourself.
It's okay. My wife is Irish, so weirdly she doesn't do a fake Hispanic accent for jokes. I don't know. doesn't go back and forth. So he's 12 years old. He's Irish. He's like this super smart, super genius. And his dad is this mysterious guy. It's Colin Farrell, and he gets captured, and he gets Colin Farrell. He was really big like 10 years ago. He was in,
I had to think about it.
He was in SWAT. He was in.
He's Grindelwald.
Yeah, he's Grindelwald, the original Grindelwald pre Johnny Depp.
Spoiler.
Yeah, I guess so.
Is he related to Will Ferrell?
I don't think so. But maybe. They look very different in the face.
What?
One of them is facially talented.
just a little?
All right.
So basically, his dad disappears and he gets accused of stealing all this art and stuff. And what he finds out is that his dad is actually in contact with the fairy world. Fairies are real in this world. They keep their world a secret from all the humans, and
sorry,
it's quite the hilarious premise, laughable even. But something gets stolen from the fairy world, and then he has to kind of help with the team up with some fairies and figure out what's going on there. So anyway, there's like I said, there's a lot of characters who just randomly show up, don't really make sense. There's a kid who they're like, oh, we need help from another kid who's really tough, and then another 12-year-old shows up. She knows like kung fu, but really then never does anything in the whole movie. She just appears in the background. The cast is pretty good overall. So yeah, Colin Farrell's in it. Josh Gad, Olaf from Frozen is in it. Judi Dench is in the movie.
Oh my!
Yeah, so the cast is. I mean, it has a lot of good characters. Josh Gad is the best part. He like really saved the whole movie for me. So he's the narrator. He starts off as you think he's a human who gets captured. He's telling the story from prison in retrospect, and then you find out after the magic gets revealed that he's a giant dwarf. He's a dwarf, but he's just a normal-sized man, and all the other dwarfs are mean to him. And he has dwarf powers where he's really good at digging. He like talks about it the whole movie, and then like the part where he shows his dwarf powers I'm not going to spoil it because it's the best part of the whole movie, and it's just he's like, all right, time to dig, and then what he does is just like shocking and amazing and almost makes it worth watching. He has some really good jokes of like a truly hilarious moment where I like just didn't pay attention for 30 seconds because I was laughing so hard. So he's great. He really delivers. The rest of it is like whatever.
So just watch that part. Got it.
Yeah. The new mythology of the whole thing is kind of interesting, but it's very clumsily handled, and I don't know. So yeah, if you have kids, they will probably find it super interesting. Not going to recommend it too strongly. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. But there's some good Josh Gad moments, but you have to get 75% of the way through the movie to see it.
Did you read the book?
I did not read the book. I kind of want to because there are some interesting things in the movie that I'm wondering if they pull it off better in the book.
Does it feel like the studio is just trying to like find their Harry Potter or like their franchise that they can make a bunch of money off of? I
would say yes. However, this is noticeably lower budget than Harry Potter. Like you can tell when the CGI just isn't as good, when the sets aren't as good. Like Harry Potter is. It still holds up.
Harry Potter is, first off, it's a
Here
once
we
in
go.
a generation. It's a unicorn, okay?
It is.
So,
It is. Because what other saga nails it from beginning to end,
So I wouldn't expect them to come up with, just a, generation defining 8-part, 9-part movie, whatever it is, trilogy that's not also named Marvel to just replace it. Sorry.
People have been looking for a new Harry Potter since the old Harry Potter ended, and I think you nailed it, Hummer. Marvel is the new Harry Potter. It's not Hunger Games. It's certainly not Artemis Fowl.
So that actually gives me a good idea for maybe next week, that maybe we should talk about what movies are better than the book, if there are. So save it because we don't have enough time. But
Matrix.
Maybe is that a book first?
Because there was no books, it is definitely better than the books.
All right.
Matrix rocks.
Got us. Topic's over.
Actually, just one Matrix 1 rocks. The rest of it, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
By the yeah. So for me this week, and one of the reasons I'm glad that we got to miss last week is because I got to play through finally The Last of Us Part 2. I got to finish it. I want to tell you. Shut up, Hummer. The Last of Us, the Part 1 is a reason enough to buy a PlayStation. I want to tell you so much about this game, but it's almost impossible without any kind of spoilers. It's a difficult minefield to be able to tell you anything and just not ruin parts of the game. So what I plan on doing is actually a bonus episode as a spoiler cast and just kind of break down the game and actually give my thoughts on it and just spoiling it. So if you want to play it fresh, don't listen to it. But the gameplay is, if you like the first one, it's just the same thing as the first one, but way better. The gameplay is absolutely perfect. Constantly feeling stress. So if you've never played The Last of Us, you're insane and I don't want to be your friend. But it's like a zombie survival.
Okay, bye.
Hummer, you
Yeah.
can take the rest of the night off. Thanks for coming.
Screw you guys. I'm going home.
The easiest way to describe it's kind of like The Walking Dead, zombie apocalypse. You know, what's worse, the monsters or our people, the humans, the real monsters? It's a terrible world, and the terrible acts and terrible things that people do to survive in this world.
That's the easiest way to describe it, but that's underselling it so hard. It's so good. Sorry, please continue.
The meat of at least the first Last of Us is the relationship that you develop with the characters, and that the characters develop with the other characters in the game. That the adventure that they have to go on. I don't think it's a spoiler to say Joel and Ellie, and so their story in part 2 is. There's been a lot of leaks, and a lot of people don't want to play it because some of the characters are, they're gay or transgender, which is a idiotic reason not to play something or watch.
It's first off, it's 2020. If that's why you're not going to play it, you know what? We don't care.
Yeah, you're just devoiding yourself of art and masterpieces, and you're a terrible person. But it's the ramifications of how the game ended, they're dealing with the fallout of that. And the creators of the show wrote this to make you want to. It's almost like kind of like Game of Thrones, where there's no black, there's no white, there's a lot of gray. Here's some horrible thing that your character did in the first game. Here's how it's going to get dealt with it. Here's how it's going to affect other people, and you have to deal with that. And the horrible things that you have to do or do because of those actions. I'm just trying to be super vague about it. The game.
I'm already trying to guess what. I'm like, what was that a spoiler? Did you just spoil something for me?
It's so they want to make you feel awful, basically. Like even when you're like you have to sneak up people and grab them from behind and kill them. Even just that animation of you like killing someone is so high def and looks great, and it's so real. It makes you feel like you can see someone's eyes like go cross-eyed as they're choking them out and they die. It's brutal. And they make some really interesting narrative choices. Like narratively, you're writing a story. This happens to the character. It makes them go on this journey. They resolve their journey. End of story. But they do some different narrative stuff that it really blurs the line between like, is this a game? Is this a movie? Is it a cinematic experience? Why am you making me feel these things? Oh my God, I can't spoil it. You have to play it.
Why don't you marry it?
Yeah, I want to marry it. It is absolutely a 5 out of 5. The music, the gameplay, the visual effects, the story. You might not like the story, and the story is going to make you mad, and I think that's part of the experience. At the end, you're going to be like, it's going to you're going to need time to digest it, to understand it. I actually want to play through it again now that I know the whole story, so I can really kind of dive deeper into it. Yeah, unless you don't like super violent games that are going to make you scared and terrified and angry and sad and happy, and don't play it. But if you can handle it, yeah, 5 out of 5. This needs to first. You got to play the first one and then immediately play this one.
Sounds like the right kind of game for 2020. I have played the first. I've played the first probably like 3 to 4 hours of the game. I've hit the first big main story point, and like I finished playing that part. And I like put the controller down, and I walked over into the kitchen to where my wife was, and I was like, I can't say this is not facetious. This is a masterpiece. Like this is better just as good as any book I've ever read or any movie I've seen. Like it's I'm not joking. It's that good, and I think everyone should play it. The argument I can see against playing it is like it's even the beginning is dark. Like it's dark. And so like and the whole thing.
What's the premise of this game? Like without giving away like all the spoilers, obviously, like what
Let me try
What's
to
the
say where
storyline of this?
like the whole universe or this Last of Us 2.
I guess give me like the quick synopsis of the first one, and then like what are you accomplishing in the second?
Okay.
So
So
what's going to make me want to like sell me on why I'm buying a PS4 right now and not waiting until PS5 comes out?
So here's the thing. We can tell you and we can spoil it for you, but it will take away the enjoying it and being able to play through it, which is the best way to experience it without knowing. So we
it
can spoil it for you.
it really is like, so the premise, like the broad premise is very, I would say, generic. So like basically it's you're a kid, and the first game is a kid and like the hero male protagonist, and he's like a gruff quiet guy, and there's like post-apocalyptic, maybe 10 years after a big zombie outbreak, and all the major cities are still kind of standing, but they're like walled off, isolated cities instead of all interconnected. And the two of you are traveling across like the wreckage of the U.S. to essentially find a cure. And you get to the end of the game, and you're faced with the decision about whether or not, like, you can have the cure, but like there's
But at
like
what cost?
But at what cost? Yeah. So that's like the overarching premise of the game. But each stop, you build relationships with new characters at those stops, and each like stop is a new horror that you have to deal with. Of like, what are like what are you willing to do to like what do the means justify the ends, basically. And it's you feel like you're the one, like you're controlling the characters, and you're like pulling the triggers, and so you feel like you're the one making the decisions. And there's more than just you. There are two characters, and so you build this relationship over time, and you build relationships with the other characters. And so when you lose something or you do something that's consequential, it really affects you as the person playing the game. So like, man, I will stand by this. Like, if you're playing it, it's the same as if you are watching a movie and you identify with the protagonist. If you're reading a book and you're like, what's a good book I've read recently?
The story itself is better than most movies.
It's a lot of time you put into it too, because like it's you're putting 20-30 hours into it, and a lot of it is like you sneaking up on zombies, infiltrating bases or whatever, but a lot of it is in-depth cutscenes and
You
emotional investment.
You could watch someone play the game, or like you could watch just the cutscenes of the story, but it is not the same because it is so immersive. It makes you feel terrified when you're like stumble into a basement with a bunch of super strong zombies and you only got 3 bullets and you have to figure out how to get your way out. Like you can only experience that by playing it. You can't watch it.
The second game starts. I don't even know how much I want to say. So I'll give you. I played the very beginning, and I'll try to give you a spoiler-free intro to the second game and why it's interesting.
But more importantly, give the listeners a spoiler-free, because I mean, where I'm at right now with like whether I'm going to buy a PS4 or not, it's really the next gen consoles are on their way. I'm holding off because we were talking about this briefly, but not to get too deep into it. I'm really deciding whether or not what's Xbox's strategy going to be, whether I get the new Xbox or not, because if they're going to have all these PC or Xbox games being ported to PC, I'm just going to go PC route, and then I'm going to get a PS4 or a new PS5. You know, and that's when I'm going to end up talking on this podcast all about Spider-Man, the game that's probably going to be 5 years old or whatever it is by that point.
It's still good.
Yeah. Just wait till the PS5 so you can get everything.
Yeah, I think that's honestly, at this point, that's probably the right choice. If
Because you guys got me excited. I mean, I love zombie games.
If we were in the same city, I would just let you borrow the old PS4. Sadly, we're not. Also, I need to play.
They don't make it for PS3, do they?
The first one, yeah. But there's a remaster for 4. And you know, some people don't want that experience. They don't want to be forced to think things and feel things. They just want to drop in, shoot a couple of things in Fortnite and drop out or play football, whatever, you know. And that's fine too, whatever you enjoy. But if you're like a story driven person and that's why you play games, this is peak. They studied the first game in film class because it blurs the line, which kind of segues us into our topic for the week. Are video games movies? Are they better than movies? How are they different than watching a movie or maybe like a mini series on TV? Hummer, have you played any games that you feel like this story would be amazing as a movie, or it's made better because I played through it? Like, what do you think?
I think they're two completely different medias that bring you. They can create the same feeling or effect. Like whether they make you happy, sad, cry, scared. I remember the first time playing Doom 3. Oddly enough, Doom 3, I don't think it was actually a console game at all. I think it was exclusively PC back in the day. And I remember that game scaring the living daylights out of me in the way no movie had actually ever been able to accomplish, in terms of, because it's like you're there, you're making a movement, and all of a sudden something comes up and scares you because you weren't expecting it. And so I think it's different. Where like I would try to imagine Assassin's Creed Odyssey as a movie, and I don't think it works.
They did make it a movie, and it was terrible.
Well, was it Odyssey they made into a movie, or was it just Assassin's Creed in general?
Yeah, it was in general.
Because that's my point. Because Assassin's Creed, the story is so in depth. There's so much nuance to it that it's almost more like a TV series than it would be a movie. So I would say in that case, Assassin's Creed, the video game, is a better experience. Now, the Marvel movies, on the other hand, I honestly couldn't imagine or wanting to play, I don't know about you guys, thousands of hours worth of video games to get to the same conclusion of Endgame, where I've watched almost thousands of hours of movies with my rewatchability of those movies. It's like, so I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the difference between the Marvel movies and maybe the Marvel video games is you get the benefit of the acting, right? You get Robert Downey Jr. completely nailing Iron Man, Chris Evans, bringing the heart of Captain America to life on the screen, and so far any Marvel games that exist, there's a new Marvel Avengers game coming out that could be really good, but so far you lose that acting.
Yeah. For me, it's a question of are they comparable? Like, does a video game nowadays do an excellent video game, a top-notch video game, do something that a really strong movie can do? And I think in the past that wasn't the case, because they really did different things, and they occupied different spaces, and they accomplished different goals. So when I think back of like the original Super Mario World, that's just you would never compare a movie to that. They're just they're different.
They did make a movie. It was amazing.
It was a young John Leguizamo. But they Super Mario World it's not comparable. They're so different. But Super Mario World is amazing. It's one of the best games ever made.
I mean, I think I would also argue though too that video games are how to say this the right way. Movies can be a group activity in the same room. Playing a video game isn't really the same way, because if you're playing with a group of people in the same room, more than likely you're playing a multiplayer game. You're playing, some sort of shooter. You're playing like Mario Party, and you're not really there for a story. You're there for the competitiveness or the game aspect of it. Where when you're playing by yourself, that's a totally different experience. Where a single player game, a RPG, that is 100% of the time I think going to be better than a movie, because it's interactive. It's you making decisions that are affecting the gameplay around you.
Yeah, you identify. You can now identify a lot more with the characters if you're playing one-on-one. And definitely it's a different experience if you're playing a multiplayer. But I think from a narrative standpoint, they're starting to get much more similar, because you can there's a progression over the years. So I said Super Mario World. If you think of Halo, that was a little more cinematic. It had a story. You were I feel like you were affecting the story. But now I think there's
almost. It could have been such a good movie if they would have made it.
They did. Wasn't it called Red versus Blue?
That was a legendary web
series.
Web series, yeah.
Yeah, even better.
6 out of 5. No.
The fact that you still like see like memes and stuff from that, like however many years ago that was, is incredible.
Still great. Well, you know, there older games like I think maybe could be turned into a movie. Like I'll never forget one of my favorite moments of gaming is the on N64, Star Fox 64, one of my favorite 64 games. The end of that game is so amazing. You're fighting Andros, you're trying to save the universe. It's the very last boss battle and you finally defeat him and he's about to take you down with him, and out of nowhere the ghost of your father comes in and guides you out through the
Spoiler.
maze of his base, big spoiler, and rescues you. It's so amazing. I love that moment. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful moment. I want to see it being made into a movie.
Yeah.
But no, so I think obviously not all games are gonna Tetris isn't gonna be a good movie, right? Or they
I
make
mean,
some
Pac-Man had a decent movie with Adam Sandler. You know, it's not
that was a
technically
guest
Pac-Man.
appearance. Right. There's not a lot of good video game movies yet, but I think that's going to be the next big thing around the corner after all these superhero movies kind of start to not be as popular. But that's not my point. Is are video games, can they be better than movies? Are they better than movies? I think about it this way: it needs to be the right kind of game. So I'm going to use Last of Us as an example. Expertly written, directed. The characters in the game are all motion capture performance. So Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson are on a set playing the characters in the first one, acting it out, and they're using their movements, they're using their facial expressions to bleed that into the game. So you're not just watching some 3D characters randomly programmed. They're actually using their performance, which makes it better because you're seeing it makes it more real, more grounded, more cinematic. So a game like The Last of Us, if you read a book can't make you. It might freak you out, but it's not going to make you go all of a sudden something's going to pop out and a zombie's going to bite somebody's face off, and you're not going to go reading it, right? That can happen in a movie, but a movie's only 2-3 hours at the most. A TV show a miniseries can be longer and give you more time to get more invested in the character, but like these games are 20-30 hours long. You getting all this time establishing a bond with the character, becoming the character, experience what they're experiencing and experiencing the story over that amount of time. Usually people will say the book's always better, reading the book's better, but the book's not going to engage your senses like a video game is. You're getting haptic feedback on the controller, you're seeing it, you're hearing it. I think a good game is gonna be better than most good movies because it's more immersive and you can experience it in that way.
See, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
No, I'm right.
My counterpoint to
So
you
you agree?
is a movie can be good though because of the fact that it is not a 20-hour, 30-hour, 40-hour commitment. The fact that you can just sit there and get a good story done in 2.5 hours that leaves you with an emotional roller coaster. You know, the fact that a movie can make people cry in 2.5 hours is kind of a testament to how powerful that can actually be. Where the video game you're talking about, well, you're investing a lot of time, 40, 50 hours into it. And I just think it's impressive when you can find a movie that's so good that in 2.5 hours they bring you to the point where you are crying because you are so connected to the character and what they're going through emotionally.
That's a good point.
I've seen some movies that elicit an extreme emotional response from me when I'm by myself after about 30 seconds or so.
You talking about Up?
Yeah. Yes. Ooh, that really kicks off quick.
I was thinking about Star Wars 5.
I was thinking about Star Wars Episode 3. Every time they execute Order 66, it gets me every time.
I think this generation, the last generation of video games, I guess I agree with both of you. I try to be generally supportive, but I think you're now at a point
you
where
pick one and one.
We're now at a point where there really are experiences where you can compare them. Because like a movie experience, certainly 2.5 hours intense, like you're sitting there on the edge of your seat. And a video game experience, like you come back to it a few days in a row, maybe multiple days in a row, depending on how long it is. They're obviously different experiences, but the narrative experience that you're given is comparable. Like people are now trying to, like, video games have scripts, video games have motion capture, they have voice actors, they have facial recognition capture, and they're trying to tell a story and explore themes that, like Super Mario World wasn't trying to explore any themes about like human depravity, but
You don't know that.
Parasite was, and so is Last of Us 2. Two different movies, but like both looking at what is the value of humanity. Not to get too deep. So like I think there are video games where like the story is the point. Like the gameplay has to be good to make the game good. But like the new Spider-Man, the story was the point. Last of Us 2, the story is the point. Horizon Zero Dawn, like the story is like majorly the point, and it's beyond just like finding new ways to shoot your electric bow and arrow at someone. It's communicating a message about like the dangers of taking the environment for granted. It's about do the means justify the ends, and so like they've come a long way. And I would say, so it was your original point. Our video games movies, they can accomplish pretty much all of the same goals at this point.
I just don't think
So
you
you
can say
all
one is
agree
better
with
than-
me.
I just don't think you can say one is better than the other. I think they both have their qualities that make them great. And video games, their cinematography has come so far that like the cutscenes themselves are mini TV shows, which is awesome. And
They have games now that are basically just choose your own adventure movies too. It makes me sad because you're right. They both have their pros and they both have their cons, and they're different. Some video games are better than movies, and vice versa. And most movies are better than video games because they have a much longer running history. But there's some people in the world that are never gonna experience something like The Last of Us, Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn, because they just don't play games, and they're just missing out on such good storytelling and good content. It's sad to me.
sad. It's just sad.
I guess I do understand that, like, to play Last of Us 2, you should probably play Last of Us 1. So the commitment there is you're exactly like you were contemplating earlier, Hummer. The commitment there is you have to buy a PlayStation 4 for a few $100. You have to buy Last of Us 1. You have to play 20 or 30 hours to get through the story, and then Last of Us 2. So like that actually is like a huge commitment. And so I can see why people who aren't gamers historically maybe aren't going to just jump and do that. But on a purely like if you're looking purely at the story and like the emotional response it's giving you, I think at this point you can directly compare them. Like,
I could give you a perfect example. I have some friends who are not gamers. They're husband and wife. They live in Brooklyn.
I hate them.
And you hate them, but they're not gamers.
why are you friends?
It's okay. But what they're doing now is because I've talked about Marvel and I've talked about how good the Avengers are. They are not going to go, like you said, they're not going to go out and buy PlayStation 4 because they're not gamers. They're not going to go and sit there one person, it's just him, and play a game in their one-bedroom apartment. So him and his wife have now decided to pick up and watch the Marvel series. So they are, granted, they're doing it in an unorthodox way, as I've described to them, but whatever. If you want to skip the Iron Mans of the world, you do you.
What?
They started with they're just watching the Avengers series. So they're just going the Avengers in order. And I'm like, that's fine. That's wrong, but it's fine. It's wrong. I'm just happy that you're picking it up, but they're enjoying it. But the thing is, though, like while they're enjoying it, they're not having to give themselves a 50, 60-hour time commitment to doing it. They could go back and decide that, we liked all these. I want to see more of the backstories. So then they can go back and watch Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 or whatever. And, now that's their 60-hour time commitment is indulging themselves in the entire Marvel universe. And I think there's two sides to the story here.
Yeah. I agree with Hummer and with Sauce. You guys are both right.
But no,
No.
He said it. Haha, I win. So what is really cool is that they're turning The Last of Us into a HBO series, a miniseries, and it's going to be directed by the same guy who directed the Chernobyl miniseries.
Oh man,
And
so
it's
good.
overseen by the creative director of the game himself, so it's not going to be like some weird, totally misinterpreted version of it. It's going to be like the correct version of it.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
Chernobyl was sweet. I don't know if you
Chernobyl
ever
was
talked.
Chernobyl was
You
a
haven't
5
talked
out of
about that
5.
show. That's a 5.
You got to go watch Chernobyl if you haven't seen it.
another
Quick Chernobyl side note: the way they explain in the last episode of Chernobyl how how and why the reactor blew up, like the way they do it on the show is just amazing. They make it so it's such a complicated process so clear. It's really good. Anyway, what were you saying, Sauce?
No, it was just gonna say it was a great series. I kind of like watching miniseries better than movies and better than shows now. I think like 10-hour-long, well-produced episodes is my favorite way to consume something besides video games.
There's definitely something to be said for a TV show that has a finite that starts with a planned ending in mind and a good plan on how to get from the beginning to the end, as opposed to a lot of our traditional serialized episodes where it's like all these friends are living in an apartment together and well they keep breaking up with each other
And
getting back together,
dating the other ones.
being on a break.
First off, watch yourself here. Do not. Let's not go down this road.
We all love Friends
And
some
Jennifer
more than
Aniston.
others.
Yeah, already had to bring up how she's awesome in the Dumplin. That's the reason why it's a 5.
Sick callback. All right, well, that was this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you think you have a video game suggestion that might be better than a movie, please let us know on Twitter at TimesinkPod. We're on all the social medias. Follow us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next week.